moving on here. We got a lot of stuff to cover. So one thing is one thing that has been baffling, right? Has been John Fetterman, once considered a quite a good boy of the progressive left here in in America. John Fetterman has taken a dive recently by not calling for a ceasefire and calling even calls for a ceasefire abhorrent, and which is why you got artists out here making sketches like this of John Fetterman. This is a very good sketch, by the way, and he actually went on the record today to talk about why. Oh, sorry, reprehensible. Let's hear what he has to say. Why does he believe calling for Palestinians to be free is reprehensible?
You say you came out that you're against the ceasefire. Why is that?
I am really about making sure that Israel is able to do what Israel deserves to do. And I agree for the death of any innocent civilian, Palestinian, Israeli, and whatever it is. But right now, I want to make sure, more concerned with making sure the hostages are back home and that we are able to neutralize and eliminate Hamas.
I saw yesterday that you wrote on Twitter, somebody had posted outside of Taylor Alderdice High School some graffiti that said Free Palestine. You said this was reprehensible. Why did you object to it so much?
I think it's because, doesn't that be said, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and I don't believe that whatever message you're able to make shouldn't be vandalized on a high school in the middle of Squirrel Hill. And the appointment and the statement that I want to make is about, to me, really, it's very much about the hostages and getting them back home safe.
So you think it's inappropriate to have pro-Palestine? I mean, there was recently a number of congregants, surviving congregants from that congregation that went to the West Bank that spoke out against the occupation. I'm Jewish. There's certainly many people in my family that are against the occupation.
Sure.
I mean, what do you feel about the Jews like myself who feel that we're doing onto the Palestinians what was done onto us?
Reasonable people can have different opinions on that. I've been very clear on mine before I became senator as a candidate, and everybody understands how I'm going to come down and vote.
Oh, wow, that was deeply, deeply, deeply disappointing. He was supposed to be one of the good ones, Hey, Zelrex. I don't know how he recovers from this, frankly. Deeply disappointing stuff. I don't know how you look at that and you're like, yes, John Fetterman, I feel betrayed. Yeah, it's that and AIPAC, man. The AIPAC money gets to you. If I recall correctly, he
you say,
if I recall correctly, he AIPAC donated a lot of money to his campaign. So yeah, support for Biden and Democrats has absolutely cratered. It is hard to overstate. Some of the polling I've seen indicates that in some cases the support for Biden and the Democrats in general has gone from 59% or 60% to 17. It's in the teens, dude. It's wild. And I don't know that this is ever going to be really recovered from. I think people will vote for him begrudgingly, but not enthusiastically, It's honestly, a lot of the response to this has been so demotivating for the American left that it puts 2024 much more in play for Republicans, which is bad news for basically everybody everywhere on the planet. Because again, if Republicans win, you know, like, Donald Trump is in favor of liquidating and killing all Palestinians. Like, just straight up. Just straight up. He's talked about wanting to, like, deport anyone who is pro-Palestinian, like, while imposing, like, the Muslim travel ban again. Like, that's like the alternative. Like, the alternative is a guy who's just, like, rabid and foaming at the mouth to kill as many Palestinians as possible. And I'm worried that the level of demotivation that we're seeing is going to put him in play for winning in 2024. And I feel like we're going to have a lot of months of being like, hey, I know you don't want to vote for this guy, but the alternative is literally just pro-genocide and anti-democracy. And I don't know if our democracy can handle another round with him. Yeah, it's, yeah. I've never voted enthusiastically in my life. You know, that's a good attitude to have, Vijo. I wish more people had that. It's less of a fun thing and more of a civic duty. Well, I mean, like, Trump literally has a settler community named after him. Like, I don't know how else to, like, emphasize how not good for, like, Palestinians Trump in power would be. And, like, that's the bar is so low. Like, the bar right now is Joe Biden low, but, like, it can go lower. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us already got burned by Obama, I guess. Oh, yeah, we're going to be playing a few clips from American politicians, so brace yourself here. It's going to get absolutely unhinged. Here's Lindsey Graham, you know, member of the Republican Party. Witness at camp bombing, children carrying other children.
Civilian casualties.
Is there a threshold for you, and do you think there should be one for the United States government, at which the U.S. would say, let's hold off for a second in terms of civilian casualties? Is there a point at which you would start to question?
If somebody asked us after World War II, is there a limit what you would do to make sure that Japan and Germany don't conquer the world? Is there any limit what Israel should do to the people who are trying to slaughter the Jews? The answer is no. There is no limit, but here's what you need to do. Be smart. Let's try to limit civilian casualties the best we can. Let's put...
Okay, but you already, like, your answer has already made it clear. Even if they didn't try to limit civilian casualties, you would still be okay with it. I mean, just setting aside the fact that he just compared, like, again, there are people in America right now who would happily kill every single, like press the button that would kill, like, every single Jewish person on Earth, okay? They're called neo-Nazis. But you know what? We don't actually, like, go around and just, like, murder them and their entire families and everyone who lives on the same block as them in America. Because we recognize that those individual neo-Nazis are not actually capable of carrying out the violence that they fetishize so much, right? Like, we recognize that they are not capable of actually doing that. In the same way, Hamas is not actually capable of enacting the level of harm that Nazi Germany or Imperial Japan were able to do. Okay, they're just not. We're talking, like, what, 10,000 fighters for Hamas? Tops? Like, the idea that that, well, you know, out of these 2 million people, you should be able to just kill all of them because a minority of them are members of an extremist political group is insane to me. Yeah, you should be able to kill over, like, again, half the population of the Gaza Strip are children. Yeah, you should be able to kill over 1 million children because there are 10,000 like extremists. That is an insane that is an insane line of thinking. That is bloodthirsty on a level I can't quantify, and it is actively enabling this ideology, this mental sickness is enabling the kind of mass murder we're seeing in the Gaza Strip.
Humanitarian aid in areas to protect the innocent, I'm all for that. But this idea that Israel has to apologize for attacking Hamas, who's embedded with their own population, needs to stop. The goal is to destroy Hamas. Hamas is creating these casualties, not Israel.
I don't think anyone's
Civilian casualties.
Is there a threshold?
Like, I mean, Abisali brings up a decent point, right? Like, that guy in Maine killed 27 people and then went missing. Like, should they just, like, glass a small town in Maine because they can't find this guy? You know, just drop the bomb roughly where they think he is and just dust their hands off, call it a day. You know, sure, you killed over 1,000 people, but, you know, you got that one guy who killed 27. No, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. If you scale it down and you were like, oh, a bad guy takes a hostage and a bunch of cops show up and then just riddle the hostage with bullets to kill the criminal, like, no one would accept that. No one would think that's justice. Everyone would think that was handled absolutely horribly. But for some reason, Lindsey Graham's just there being like, yeah, I think not only should the cops have killed the hostage, they should have killed every other, like, bystander. Like, that's the argument that they make. You know, it's worth it to kill that one bad guy in order to, you know, if we had to kill 20 bystanders, it's worth it. Insane stuff. Like, hatred twists these people's hearts to such a degree. It sickens me. And here we have Mast on the Brian Mast on the floor of Congress.
As a whole, I would encourage the other side to not so lightly throw around the idea of innocent Palestinian civilians, as is frequently said. I don't think we would so lightly throw around the term innocent Nazi civilians during World War II.
Like like comparing Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to active members of the Nazi Party is insane to me. Like, there were people in Nazi Germany who were not Nazis. Like, there were innocent German civilians in Nazi Germany. Like, but then you have to keep in mind, again, even if you granted what he was saying, even if you granted his insane position here, half of everyone in the Gaza Strip are under the age of 18. All those Nazi children, all of those Hamas children who deserve to die, who weren't even old enough to vote for Hamas when they came to power in 2006. They're all complicit, Brian Mast. Like, this is monstrous. This is monstrous. Like, just blatantly monstrous. There's no getting around it. There's no explanation that makes it make more sense. Here's Hillary Clinton. Go back to your log cabin in the woods, Hillary. Nobody wants you.
People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas.
Literally, we've gone over interviews with other political parties that are active in the Gaza Strip. Leaders of other political parties. And you know what? Those are people who have had to deal with Hamas and members of Hamas regularly in order to get things done in the Gaza Strip. And you know what they say? That you can negotiate with Hamas. That you can, in fact, negotiate a ceasefire. You can, in fact, negotiate a two-state solution with Hamas. If you end the apartheid state, if you end the systematic oppression of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, you literally take away their reason for existing. It wouldn't be a smooth transition, obviously, but it's better than killing 1 million children, which is currently what Israel is on course to do. Hamas is max 30,000 versus one of the strongest militaries in the world. Yeah. Like, it's... Like, even the highest estimate for Hamas is still, like, nothing compared to Israel's military. Like, they literally called up over 500,000 troops to the border of Gaza.
Because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in.
The weapons Hamas builds are like fertilizer mortars. They're not high-tech weapons at all. Like, okay, they can build those up. Like, worst case scenario, they build those up. Israel still has, at any given moment, 10,000 times more munitions. They have troops that they're able to field, like, almost at a ratio of 20 to 1. 20 Israeli soldiers for every one Hamas fighter. Like, what, like, and not to mention the fact that when you say, when again, Hillary Clinton was a former Secretary of State. When a former Secretary of State says something like this, it is a complete abdication of responsibility, right? Because she's supposed to be pursuing, like, a two-state solution, right? And what she's saying here is essentially like, oh, you can't even have a two-state solution because Hamas will just use the interim period of building a two-state solution to arm themselves and attack Israel again, which is just saying, oh, you don't actually want that. What you think should happen is what is currently happening. You think Palestinians should be ethnically cleansed, and if you need to kill every single Palestinian in order to make sure that Hamas no longer exists, well, that's just a price Hillary Clinton's willing to pay. Monstrous.
But that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.
Yeah, no, and of course I'm glad. Hamas has only been a pretext for this. You know, I'm firmly of the belief that Israel has been preparing for this for some time. Netanyahu knew that at some point there would be an attack on Israel, and the usefulness Hamas had to him would be done. And when that happened, when that day came, this would be the inevitable result. You know? They are planning to push like Palestinians out of Gaza and take full control of Gaza. That is what I believe is happening right now. Hamas is just the pretext to do that. Let's take a look over in the UK. How are things going in the UK?
Well, first of all, let me explain what we've seen over the last few weekends. We've seen now tens of thousands of people take to the streets following the massacre of Jewish people, the single largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, chanting for the erasure of Israel from the map.
I don't think that's what was happening in the middle of London. I don't think people in London were advocating for Israel to be erased off the map. I think what they were advocating for was for an end to the apartheid regime. When people say free Palestine, that's generally what they mean. An end to the apartheid and the resumption of peace talks for a two-state solution. This lady is extremely racist. I believe it, given what she said in the first 20 seconds of a 1-minute clip.
In my mind, there's only one way to describe those marches. They are hate marches. Now, secondly, the police and the...
Yes, truly calling for an end to the bombing of Palestinians is hateful. I can't imagine a more hateful thing to do than to call for call for bombing campaigns on children to be ended. What a hateful thing to do.
The Crown Prosecution Service are operationally independent, so it's not for me to provide a running commentary on the specific legal decisions that they are making in real time on the ground. But what the police have made clear is that they are concerned that there's a large number of bad actors who are deliberately operating beneath the criminal threshold in a way which you or I, or the vast majority of British people, would consider to be utterly odious.
What does that mean? There are a large number of bad actors operating underneath the criminal threshold that people would consider odious. What does that mean? Because it sounds like if you could accuse them of a worse crime, you would.
Now, we keep our laws under review, and if there is a need to change the law, just as we did in relation to Just Stop Oil protests last year, I will not hesitate to act. I have made my views clear. These are hate marches, and the police must take a zero-tolerance approach to anti-Semitism.
Yeah, again, criticizing the policies of a state is not anti-Semitism. You know, Israel does not speak for all Jewish people at all. Conflating the two is actually, like, really odious. Like, Jewish people... Like Israel does not speak for all Jewish people and does not represent all Jewish people. It sets itself up that way, but that's because it is effectively a theocracy. Like, it is absolutely awful that people are responding this way. Especially people in positions of power. Here's Keir Starmer being an absolute gutless, feckless individual.
As to whether each and every act is in accordance with the law, well, that will have to be adjudicated in due course. I think it's unwise for politicians to stand on stages like this or to sit in television studios and pronounce day by day which acts may or may not be in accordance with international law. I think it's not the role of politicians.
Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
Yes.
Yes.
What I've seen already amounts to war crimes, particularly the awful attacks on civilians.
As to whether each and every act is...
That's so curious. It's almost like these absolute ghouls know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing here. Dude could accurately call out Putin and the Russian invasion for its war crimes. Did you miss a cut? Yeah, these were two different clips. There was the top clip where he's saying, "Oh, well, I couldn't possibly condemn Israel for war crimes when I would never adjudicate whether something's a war crime while I'm up on stage in front of cameras." And then right after that, the bottom clip played where he did exactly that, accurately diagnosing the war crimes of Vladimir Putin.
In accordance with the law.
Yeah. Feckless. I mean, like, guys, it's not even subtle. It's not subtle. Like, I almost called him Vladimir Putin. Benjamin Netanyahu is literally getting on television and just straight up saying, we're at a war with darkness, and we need to bring the light of civilization to these savages. You know, like, he's using the rhetoric of colonialism. He's using the rhetoric of that specifically colonialists used to justify the worst excesses and crimes of colonialism.
Our war against Hamas is a test for all of humanity. It is a struggle between the axis of evil of Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, and the axis of freedom and progress. We are the people of the light. They are the people of darkness, and light shall triumph over darkness. Citizens of Israel, October 7th was a very dark and black day in our history. We will fully investigate what had happened at our southern border, the border with Gaza. Everybody will have to provide answers, myself included, but all that will happen only after the war. As a prime minister, I'm responsible for...
Yeah, like, no, guys, this is what, like, when like the European powers began the scramble to colonize Africa, right? This is the kind of stuff they would say. They would say, "Oh, these people are violent savages. They live in darkness. We have a duty to free them from the dark. We have a duty to enlighten them, lift them up." You know, which just so happened to coincide with murdering untold numbers of them. It's just, man. And by the way, so I came across this clip and I wasn't really sure if I was going to show it on stream just because I didn't know. It was being shared around by a lot of accounts, but I didn't know where it came from. But I managed to track down the original video here. And translated, so Google Translate, keep in mind, grain of salt. And it's from an organization, Bet Zedek. Today, during a police raid, oh, by the way, I should say, Bet Zedek, translate bio. Rightfully so, the Protesters' Rights Association works in the fight against police violence. So this is literally a civil rights group within Israel that is dedicated to making sure you're working against police violence. So in this video, they caption it saying, "Today, during a police raid to take down Palestinian flags in the anti-Zionist Jewish neighborhood Mea Shearim in Jerusalem, the Israeli policemen were recorded attacking the residents and knocking them down on the road, hitting and punching them in the face." So, again, to reiterate, the police are going into this neighborhood specifically because there are Palestinian flags being flown in a neighborhood that is populated by people that generally don't agree with the entire Israeli state's mission to, bring all Jews to Israel, right? So here's what happened when the police came in and encountered this group of, oh God, what I keep forgetting the term. What is the term? What is the term for like Orthodox? They encountered a group of anti-Zionist Orthodox Jews protesting in Israel against the oppression of Palestinians. So these are pro-Palestinian Jewish people. And here's what happened when the police came. The police just openly assaulting these people who are standing up for what is right within Israel. Again, keep in mind that the majority of people in Israel, the majority of Jewish people in Israel, do not support the invasion of Gaza. You know? And in order to keep order and in order to push through this type of unpopular action, the Netanyahu regime is having to rely on police violence in order to, push down dissent. It is, I mean, it's awful in a lot of different ways. Israel is a fascist state. Yes. Yes. But I mean, goddamn, some of the stories coming out of here, of Gaza here. Palestinian American family mourns 42 relatives killed in a single day. 40. I don't even think I know 42 members of my family. If I were to count up my family tree, I think I would have to include 4 or 5 generations in order to get up to 42 members. That is the losses that are happening here are just incalculable. Again, there was a story a couple weeks ago of just how many families, I haven't seen a updated count, but how many family lines have just been completely wiped out, you know? It's a lot, and I don't know how to even count that many, and I mean, let alone how I would deal with the emotional weight of that loss, you know? Here is a man whose family was killed by Israel. 21 members of his family, and he's doing an interview here.
Because I believe that some of the major Western media outlets are actually complicit in this
on Good Morning Britain. Okay.
war crime that Israel is committing against us.
Complicit in what way?
They provided Israel with the cover and atmosphere to do the massacres against us. The coverage has never been adequate on Palestine. There has been a lot of misinformation. There has been a lot of lies about what actually happened, not only in this conflict, not only since the 7th of October, but for 75 years of the conflict.
Now, you're talking about we, speaking as a Palestinian. Israel's very clear that this is against Hamas, a terrorist.
Okay, I know that they're talking about something very serious right now, but like, girl, what are you doing with your bangs? What is this? What is this hair situation?
Organization that perpetrated the most horrific atrocities.
I'm sorry. I cannot imagine feeling entitled to talk down to someone who has had 21 members of their family killed. I can't imagine doing this. What has to break in your brain?
I can understand why you, in the absolute vortex of your grief, feel anger. But what can be done for the sake of all those there? Because what we don't want,
like the amount of rage he must be feeling is just
to get into is a war of words and hate, do we?
Of course, we don't want a war of war or hate, but we need to be clear about something. This is not a war against Hamas. My family are not Hamas. My 14 nieces and nephews who are children, all under the age of 13, ranging from 1 to 13, are not Hamas. And they were killed. They were brutally killed while they were asleep. This is not a war against Hamas. This is a war against the Palestinian people. And it has been always against the Palestinian people. My father is 75 years old, and he was born a few months after the Nakba. Do you know what the Nakba is? The Nakba is the year in which Israel, the Zionist militias, forcibly displaced 750,000 Palestinian people from their homes and lands to create the state of Israel. This is what actually happened. We have been living under this war and conflict and onslaught and massacres for a long time, and it is right now.
And
it is the time to stop that.
Look up the massacre of Deir Yassin. Yeah, we looked that up recently. I did a video on the 95-year-old reservist that the IDF called up and to like raise morale for the IDF troops, and dude literally participated in that massacre. Like it's horrific. Like it's not just right that the state of Israel like did war crimes in the past and is like, you know, apologetic for them. No, like the people who did those war crimes are still actively trying to do more war crimes. It is I mean, it's genocidal. That's what it is. That's the word for it, you know? And I can't show that because that is Al Jazeera, and they gave me that copyright strike, so. Oh, also, I've seen this kind of conspiracy theory start taking hold, okay? So this is your official, like, inoculation against stupid, okay? For all of it. There are people, and mostly, like, ignorant people in, like, America and the UK, I've noticed, who are going around saying that, oh, Israel couldn't have bombed a refugee camp. There were buildings there. Yeah, refugee camps can have buildings in them. They're not just all made out of tents. And in fact, not only that, but Jabalia, which is the largest refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, is recognized by the UN as a refugee camp. Like, literally some people are so disconnected and so incurious that they just see refugee camp and they're like, oh, clearly that must mean tents in the middle of nowhere. Like, no, like some of these refugee camps in Gaza and the surrounding areas have literally existed for the last 90 some years. But like, and like, yeah, a lot of the buildings are like makeshift, but like there are still buildings there. There are still like buildings that provide vital services and such. It's just like some people are just absolutely checking out of any kind of, I don't know, like sanity, I guess. Like, that's, do they hear the word camp and think they're going out camping, like to a tent? I mean, honestly, that's no, they're thinking like, oh, well, obviously refugees are all dirty and sad and live in tents. That's honestly where their brain's at. It's the same kind of thinking where like there's a certain type of like incurious person in America, right, who grew up on like Billy Graham, who just assumes, because all of the imagery and advertising they've received of their lives.
OMG, they are literally trying to bring about the end times. These superstitious fucks.
True. But who, like, through all of that exposure to like evangelical propaganda, just think that Africa is full of like starving black people and huts. Like they think that's what like all of Africa is, right? Which obviously it's not. Like, obviously it's not. You could just get on like Google Maps and know that that's not true. But they don't, they just don't care enough to look into it. Then they see South. Yeah, you don't even, like, honestly, you can literally any African like city has office buildings and stuff. Like, it's not, they're living in huts. Oh god.